Welcome to the West Virginia PTA Local Unit Officers webinar. Before we begin with our agendas this evening, I wanted to discuss a few things in regards to West Virginia PTA. We have several ways that you can stay in touch with us. We have a website. We also utilize social media through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We also have a West Virginia PTA email through MailChimp that we do keep in touch with our officers, so please stay on that listing if you can. If you've been added, you will receive those emails, only ones that are important in regards to PTA. You will not get any spam from that email. We also have regional training that we conduct every school term right before school starts, typically at the end of July and August. So be on the lookout for that training that's coming up in terms of dates and locations. We're also going to try to have an online training before all the in-person trainings will be conducted at the end of July. We also submit quarterly newsletters to update you on our advocacy plans and just different PTA unit information, things that are of interest to our local PTAs across the state. And we also have convention that we hold at the end of around the winter time, late winter, early spring. And this is a great way for local PTAs to network and to learn new information by attending our workshops. And we also have, awards for our individual PTAs, and also we celebrate our Reflections Art winners for the children at that convention as well. So be on the lookout for information in the coming months on our convention. We are also your partner in PTA. We are a resource. We provide guidance and advice. We're not here to tell you how to, run your PTA or what activities to do or programs to conduct. We're just here to provide the guidance and make sure that you remain a nonprofit 501c3 unit. Also, we recommend you to start using MemberHub. We introduced this new program last year in 2019-20 called MemberHub that you can use to report your membership electronically. It's an amazing tool that allows you to actually run your PTA online. So you can pay your dues online right from your bank account. It allows families to purchase memberships online using your unique URL. You can still sign up members with a form, and then you can simply enter your members in MemberHub to maintain your member list and keep track of all the dues. You can also maintain a list of members automatically and all their contact information as families and members purchase memberships using your unique URL. You can also store all your standards of affiliation documents as well, and I'll get into that later on in the presentation. And you can also use it for fundraising, and you can have your own PTA online store where you can sell merchandise. You can also create professional collaborative newsletters. They provide the templates, and you and your officers can work together on creating the newsletter. And you can use MemberHub to actually send reminder emails and texts for meetings and events. So we highly encourage you to use it. There's a lot of great training videos out there, and I'm also willing to do individual local unit PTA trainings as well if you're interested. So contact us at info@westvirginiapta.org for more information. National PTA is also a great resource for your local PTA. If you are a new officer, I would highly recommend, if you are a current officer and have not done so, sign up for the local PTA Local Leader Kit. You can go out to www.pta.org, which is National PTA's website. And if you sign up for this kit, it's basically a digital guide that is designed to help you learn the basics of running your PTA. It has just about everything you need as a leader, including guides that could help you select and work with your board. It can help you formulate your calendar of programs and events, helps you navigate all the financial challenges of a 501c3 association. You can grow your PTA membership, choose and organize a PTA fundraiser, and the list is endless. So I highly recommend that you get online and sign up for your local leader kit. You can also sign up for the PTA boot camp. Now, this is a learning experience that'll help you make the most out of your school year yet for your kids. So even from home, when you sign up, you can help your PTA prepare for the next school year using this resource. This year's boot camp is going to help you strengthen your connection to the mission of the PTA while unlocking all kinds of valuable tools and resources that really are exclusively available only to PTA leaders. So, it'll also include inspirational emails on how-to tips, and I do believe that it gives you access to a Facebook page for PTA leaders as well, which is very valuable. So head out to National's website and sign up for that immediately. So our agenda this evening is basically I'm going to review the role of PTA officers. We are going to cover planning with flexibility, managing your PTA, and then at the end we have open discussion and questions that will give you the opportunity to go through. As a PTA president, you have some very broad roles. Basically, you are the chair of all your general or board meetings. You are responsible for overseeing your financial compliance. In our opinion, everyone is responsible to keep a track of the finances and to make sure you understand what's going on. But as president, that is one of your main roles. So you should be working pretty closely with your treasurer on the finance side of things. You also serve as a liaison with the school administration and your community partners as well. We at both national and state PTA, we highly recommend you developing the relationship with your school administration. It's very important. PTAs are allowed in the schools because your school administration allows you to be there. So it's very important to maintain that relationship and mutual respect with each other in order to, maintain a well-run PTA. You also want to check in regularly with all your officers and all your committees to ensure that your plan is on target. So if you know that you have an event in January, you want to kind of touch base with your team, that whole committee, that team committee there, to review what their plans are and just to make sure they don't need any guidance or help, or maybe there's some things, the roadblocks they've come across. So it's always good just to keep checking in with them, on a regular basis. You also should identify any challenges or roadblocks to your PTA and invite solutions to those. So it's just being a leader in all different aspects. You also want to familiarize yourself with all PTA programs and resources, so then you can go back to your meetings and you can share these with your PTA. That's why it's important for you and your officers to attend convention, because it's an opportunity to educate yourself. It's something that you can budget within your PTA. It is absolutely okay to use PTA funds to attend the convention. So I highly recommend that you do that. You're also representing PTA to your community. Sometimes, community PTAs are involved with food drives or things that are required in the community, and that's really a good thing to do because you're representing PTA and the children of that community. So, you are the PTA representative for that. Recruiting and mentoring volunteers and future leaders. You're not going to be in the PTA forever within that school. So you want to start identifying on the front end of people who could possibly take your place in the future. So when you do leave, you can maintain that level of volunteerism at PTA, and make sure that the children of your school will continue enjoying the benefits that PTA provides. Also, volunteering at events. So whenever you're available, you should always make a presence. Your first 30 days are pretty critical as PTA president. This is the time where you want to gather all the information that you need, all the important records that belong to the PTA. And I want to highlight that PTA records don't belong to people or any individual. There are materials that belong to the PTA unit itself, and any materials that previous officers have are required by the bylaws to pass those on to you. And you are responsible for passing those on to the next individual. So some of the important information that you want to gather right up front are your bylaws. All your board members should be familiar with these bylaws. You should sit down together and go over them. It's one of the first things you need to do. If your bylaws are out of date, it's something you need to get with the state PTA and update. And we have a bylaws committee and a chair that actually is responsible for that. You should also have a procedure book, whether it's an electronic file, a box full of papers, or a binder, or anything that someone gave you that you need to review, get organized for your own personal use. And, it's kind of like your guidebook. And we have a lot of materials that, we can provide you as well to put in your book if you need to, to start over again. The most recent audit that your PTA has done, you want to talk to the past treasurer about this. If an audit did not occur, you need to make sure you get one done as soon as possible. Just to make sure that when you all start, you have a zero balance and you're able to move forward. All your bank statements and electronic access, you want to make sure that you have all your usernames and passwords updated. All the documents, any accounts that you have in order for you to be able to access your financial information. You also want to listen. So before you begin planning, it's important to understand what your community strengths and weaknesses are, and what the needs are, what your school's needs are. So you basically want to get together with your outgoing president and officers, and you want to talk to them about, how they reached out to the school and the community, understand what the priorities are, what worked last year, what did not, who they see as potential volunteers that you need to keep in touch with, or community partners. There's a lot of businesses that partner with PTAs. So you want to get with these outgoing officers and talk with them, and before they move on to their next challenge or assignment. So introduce yourself to school personnel and administration. So I'm going to get into this a little bit later, but you just want to make sure that you start, developing that relationship now. Get an understanding of what their goals are, what they want to see the PTA do for the school and the community. And introduce yourself to families and members of your PTA. Make sure, you put a list out of who the officers are and your contact information so they can get in touch with you if they want to volunteer or participate. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, but a great way to start is a survey. So it's a great way to find out what your members, what they want to see your PTA do and accomplish. So protect is another key word for a president. Is you want to take steps right away to safeguard your nonprofit status. This status is, your designation as a nonprofit. It is your responsibility to file your 990 every year. We also are monitoring that for you all as well. But it's very important that when I talk about standards affiliation later on in the presentation, there's going to be some key things that you need to do as officers and as president to maintain that status. And what that means is you're a nonprofit, and so you don't have to pay taxes on the income that you get when you fundraise for your PTA. So it's, it's a very important status that you must maintain in order to maintain your nonprofit status. So change the signatures on your PTA's bank accounts. You'll want to be sure that all previous officers no longer have access to that financial information or accounts. And usually a transition letter from the outgoing treasurer to the bank is typically necessary to enact this change. Like there should be meeting minutes from the election that you have that you can also give to the bank to prove that you need to be on the account. And you also want to make sure you have the latest copy of your insurance policy. This policy protects your PTA for events, if there's an accident, someone gets hurt, or in case of embezzlement. It's bonding. It's called bonding insurance, and it's state law that you have it. So if your PTA doesn't have insurance, you need to contact us right away, and we'll get you in touch with the company that can help insure your PTA. Vice president role. A vice president can be called upon anytime to assume the role of the president, either temporarily or until the position is filled in accordance with the bylaws. So some of the responsibilities for a vice president include, implementing duties delegated by the president. If they need you to do something, the vice president usually steps in and helps out the president. You could even represent the president in his or her absence for a meeting. They may ask you to run a monthly meeting in their absence, so that's something you would do. You would perform specific duties if they're noted in your bylaws. You familiarize yourself with all the PTA programs, and you attend training to try to get yourself up to speed on PTA in general. And there's a lot of resources that we have either through the state or national PTA that can help you. And really great vice presidents usually possess some sort of leadership or planning capabilities. And you like to speak in front of people, or you want to learn these things. So it's a great role to be in if you're thinking about maybe being president but just don't think you're quite ready yet. For the treasurer role, this is a role where your PTA relies on you to ensure that all your financial records are kept up to date, that a budget is always established and followed to prevent theft or fraud. Some of your responsibilities include, keeping accurate records and submitting all the written financial statements for meetings. Basically, you're the checkbook balancer. If you have a budget committee, that's something that you would chair if your PTA is big enough to have one. Or typically, PTAs do this with their officers. You also have to ensure that an audit or a financial review is done every year. You also are responsible for preparing an annual report, and sometimes most of the counties in the state do require that from their PTAs or boosters or any type of parent organization or support organization. So that's typically the treasurer's role. They also usually file the 990 report with the IRS, which is an easy submission online if you make $50,000 or less. You also would submit any state level reports and filings as required, like membership, that sort of thing. Overseeing handling of money. So your role is to ensure that all the money that's collected and counted is recorded and deposited appropriately and correctly. You're also ensuring that the financial checks and balances are in place at all times. So really, a treasurer often has like financial skills or experience If you're really good at your own finances at home, typically you can easily come into the treasurer's role. And there's tons of training and tools available from state and national PTA as well. That's why I said it's very important to get access to that local leader kit. You're also in the same role as the president. You're gathering your information, things that you need to gather, all your records on the front end. Make sure you have the bylaws. Last year's budget you can use to, work with your officers, with the president, to develop a new budget. You have a receipt book, which acknowledges money that you've received. Like if someone pays you something, like gives you a donation or whatever, and if they need a receipt, you have that. Your checkbook, which, allows you to disperse funds, and basically your booklet, I call it, your accounting Bible, which, keep all your PTA's financial records by month, either electronic or paper in a booklet. That's pretty key. Your IRS information, as we discussed in the president's side, your most recent audit report, all your bank statements, and your access to the financial accounts with username and password. So you just want to make sure that you gather all this information so you're ready to begin. You also want to take a few steps to protect, again, just like the president, to safeguard your PTA's nonprofit status. You want to make sure that your IRS 990 was filed appropriately last year. You want to get the signatures changed on the bank accounts, as we talk with the president, and your insurance as well. So you want to also prepare your team. So with your PTA president, you want to set all your fiduciary standards, all the boundary lines. You want to establish all your procedures for how your PTA is going to handle money, how you're going to reimburse people, maybe who's going to be the one applying for grants. And, if you understand the budget, you want to educate all your board members on, the budget, and, encourage them to ask questions so everybody can learn. And you want to find other PTA members that have experience with writing grants, or, are good at filling out forms, because as a PTA, you have access to those funds through national to apply for grants, and I highly recommend that you do that. The secretary is the other role, where you will serve your PTA by keeping an accurate record of all the meetings. You're creating the permanent history of your PTA. So anytime you vote on information, you want to make sure that that's documented. So if you're voting on the budget, if you're changing or amending the budget, any type of vote that has to be taken, you have to keep those records. So if someone questions how much you spent or how much we had to spend, that's all documented, and there's no question then. So most of the time, the secretary serves as both the recording role, which is taking minutes, and sending out the minutes and communicating with everyone. Sometimes it's split with two different people, but typically the secretary who does the maintaining of the minutes and sending out communication is the same person. So basically, great secretaries usually have volunteered before, have experience attending meetings, and just like to be organized. You also, as a secretary, want to gather and maintain all of the documentation. You want to keep your meeting minutes with you every month to make sure you're maintaining the record. You're also going to be documenting the financials every month when the treasurer gives their report of how much money is in your account. So you just want to make sure that you maintain those records. You want to keep your own procedure book. And the bylaws. You notice how every officer, you have a copy of those bylaws. It's just very important to have all your documents with you in a binder. So basically, your main responsibilities, working with the president, you always want to create an agenda for the monthly meetings. You want to send out the meeting announcements, all the agendas and all the supporting documents, or make those available at the monthly meeting. You want to take attendance as well and check for quorum. And what that means is quorum is the actual minimum number of members who must be present at your meeting in order for you to conduct business. So that means voting. So your bylaws may say you have to have 7 members for quorum in order to vote. So you would be the one to take that attendance and establishing whether or not you have quorum. So if you don't have quorum, that you can't conduct a vote at that time. You'll have to wait till the next meeting. Again, taking minutes, recording any votes, including counting votes, and you also want to present draft minutes of the previous meeting, make any corrections, go over that at the next meeting, just review what you all did, and that is really your permanent record for the last meeting. So really all officers and board members should be familiar with the bylaws. I know I keep saying bylaws, but it's very important on how you conduct your meeting, and really maintaining your nonprofit status. If you can't find, again, a copy of your bylaws, contact your state PTA and we'll make sure that you will get your bylaws. And like I said, each officer should have his or her own copy. Your entire board is responsible for your success. So you have to work as a team. It is not the job of one officer to do everything. If you don't work as a team and you don't, help each other, you're not going to be successful. You have to recruit for committees and volunteers to help you accomplish all the goals and activities that you want to, accomplish. If you don't, and you aren't willing to work with other people, PTA probably is not the place for you. So you just, want to work together, and then that way one person doesn't feel like everything is on their shoulders, okay? So, and everyone is responsible for understanding and keeping track of the finances. A great rule of thumb that I always used is at least every month the president and the treasurer should get together and review the finances together each month. So that way you're avoiding any surprises or any missing information by working together as a team. So I highly recommend that, you work together, you get together and, reconcile the account together. That way you both know what's in the bank and, what money goes out and what money comes in. Planning for flexibility. The first thing we always recommend is for you as officers, you're the executive committee, which is the president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. You want to meet as a team first and create an agenda for your PTA year. So make sure you take into consideration that this school year may look much different for schools in regards to COVID. So there may be guidelines that you need to follow. There may be adjusted schedules. There may be restrictions that you don't know about, which is why I always say it's important that you all as officers meet with your administration, schedule that meeting now, discuss what you want your plan to look like, invite your administration to give their ideas of maybe what they want the PTA to do. Schedule your dates now. The administration knows what the school calendar looks like. They know what the testing dates are. They know if there's other activities they have planned, and they know of any new guidelines that you must follow. So discuss those expectations and all the ground rules, and also keep in mind that your PTA guidelines are typically 3 free activities for every fundraiser that the PTA does. So if you do a fundraiser, you should do at least up to 3 free fun things for your kids at the school. In terms of activities, programs, and fundraising, Do a survey. Ask the simple questions to determine what your need is. What do the students or the teachers or the school need this year from the PTA? Work with the administrators and get their feedback. SurveyMonkey is a great tool. You can ask questions, up to 10 questions for free. Share your link on Facebook to get your parents' feedback. Combine your activities like fundraising, like fun runs or fun walks to raise money, but then, your students are having fun as well. Utilize MemberHub. I keep mentioning MemberHub, but I can't tell you, it's an amazing resource where you could have your own school store. In addition to selling memberships, and I talked about like family bundles that offer spiritware or other items, you can share that link to your store on your social media platform, and you can fundraise using your online store. So it's so much safer to collect those funds online. Parents shop with their phones all the time. Use that link. You don't have to worry about going into school and counting money. It's just a much safer way to collect money as a PTA. Your PTA meetings, you want to set those days and times now if you can. If you can't do in-person meetings next year, then use an online meeting platform. Or you can combine, if you're able to have in-person PTA meetings, allow for, a Zoom call or a free conference call. Allow parents to join in at home, either by phone or online. You could get a lot more attendance if you open that up and, allow parents for that flexibility to call in from home. Or you can all call in from home and have your meeting on Zoom. Invite your meeting participants using all kinds of different communication, whether it's social media, an email, your newsletter. You just want to communicate all that up front. Give parents a heads up of when your meetings are. MemberHub has an awesome built-in targeting email and text platform. So if your parents give you their email and mobile number, you can actually email and text them. Again, it allows that collaboration for newsletters. It has automatic scheduling, so you could schedule monthly emails that go out every month as reminders for meetings. When you're planning, you want to start recruiting your volunteers and committees. So use a parent volunteer interest survey. You can use SurveyMonkey again. You can get your parents' contact information. You can fill your committees. You can learn about other skills and interests that your volunteers have. And if possible, hold an initial PTA meet and greet or a kickoff to welcome new volunteers. This could be like a late July or early August meeting. You could hold it at a park where parents can bring their kids to play. You can serve picnic foods or light snacks, welcome families, have your form available to fill out right there, and they can, submit it to you right then and there before they leave. And have your veteran volunteers at your welcome meeting to help talk about committees and ideas, and it'll make it less scary for the new people if they hear these veteran volunteers that, they can kind of, shadow, and then they won't feel so, nervous about volunteering. So make it a welcoming environment, engage your families. Managing your PTA, I would say the first thing is communication. First of all, you want to find the best way to communicate between your officers, whether it's by text or email. You need to figure that out now of how you all are going to stay in touch. And use all forms of communication for your PTA members. But you can't communicate with them if you don't get their info. So when they become members, then you have their information. So a membership, I'm going to talk a little bit about membership later, but that's very important. If you don't communicate, then you're not going to engage anybody. So, and if you don't have their information, if they don't sign up for your social media, Or maybe they don't have social media, maybe they don't have internet, so your only way is newsletters and printable newsletters. Your annual budget, this is very important because this is the plan of how your PTA is going to raise money and spend money to implement your PTA's mission. So your budget doesn't dictate what your PTA must do, but it just represents what you intend to do. So if you need to change one event and you got to put the money somewhere else, then that's something you can do as a voting association. You can amend that budget and make that change at your monthly meeting. On membership, the best thing for you to do is have fun with it. You create a membership theme, whether it's popcorn or candy or ice cream, whatever you do, create that theme, make it fun. Do a classroom contest. Whoever brings in the most memberships gets an ice cream party or a pizza party. But make it fun and incentivize your teachers to join. I mean, because this is parent-teacher association. So, they're important too, and you need them to be members. You're all advocating for your school together. Submit monthly membership dues. You can either mail your dues to the office, or you submit automatically in MemberHub, and that's the easiest way to do it. That way you're not writing checks, your accounts are linked to ours, and the money automatically transfers. And maintain a membership roster of your PTA. MemberHub is automatic, so when parents sign up, you've got their information. So right there, you've got a potential volunteer that can help. And parents, they don't always know how they can help, but unless you reach out to them, it's the only way that they're going to be able to know what you need them to do. This is the standards of affiliation checklist. This was the information I was talking to you earlier about. Every officer should have this in their booklet. You should review it every month because basically these are the things that you must do to maintain your nonprofit status. You have to submit your officers every year to the state PTA by July 1st. Your membership dues are due monthly to the state and national. We pay the national portion of the dues, but your dues are due to us by the 15th of every month. So if you don't have members to report, you don't have to report anything. But you do have to submit at least 10 members by October in order to stay in good standing. Because if you do want to apply for grants and you're not in good standing with PTA, then National will not accept your application for grants. Your IRS 990, you have to submit, your copy of that to us. And that's what I say, if you have MemberHub, we can automatically see whether you have that in your online platform. Your proof of liability insurance, and of course your bylaws have to be updated every 3 years. Your finances, you just need to keep in mind that you need to put it in writing. Any policies or procedures that you have as a local unit, you need to document those. You need to make everyone aware that, they can't just go out and spend money and then come to you and say, I need reimbursed for $200. They need to make sure that that money was in the budget, and you need to, get that out in the open on the front end. Segregate duties. If you have an online account that you monitor, you want 2 people at least on that account, because if someone gets sick and they need to check something in the bank, you need to have somebody else that has access. You also want to make sure that all bank statements and reconciliations are reviewed each month by someone who does not have access to your bank account or the authority to sign checks. We always recommend the principal should always see your bank statement, and once they look at it and initial it, they give it back to you, and so they're the ones that we do recommend. And you want to keep an accurate and detailed file of all the monies received and paid out. Should be kept with the treasurer at all times. So your filing system must be maintained. And once you do that, you know you're always organized and there's never issues if you're organized and you keep, your accurate records. You want to deposit immediately any checks or cash that you receive into your bank account. When you are receiving cash for an event, it's always the best practice to have two people count the cash and write up the deposit together. And always use a cash counting sheet when you're collecting money. That way you know what's coming in and you both kind of compare it to what the deposit is, you sign it off, and everybody, everything is kosher. Reconcile those bank statements every month with your checkbook immediately when you get it. Don't wait. So you're not working hours on end trying to catch up for 3 months, and you really can't do that because that has to be discussed at every monthly meeting, because you should present that treasurer's report every month. Contact your state PTA with any concerns. If you feel that money has been stolen or funds have been used improperly, contact your state PTA and then your insurance carrier. And that's it. Thank you for your time. You can email us at info@westvirginiapta.org if you have any additional questions or things that you want to discuss.